so much of what we're doing is ramping up and ramping down.
Being in the food business, you have to be even more aware of when you are producing product and how much you have on hand, because everything has a shelf life. You don't want to do a whole production run before you need it.
The logistics of taking an order, running it through your system, getting it on someone's doorstep, and hoping that it was going to arrive in the same beautiful condition that it left your office in. That was a lot to take on, especially as a small company.
FBA helps us to just very quickly get all of our products, sprinkles, food colors, things that people want as soon as our products are available. We're able to sell our products now. With FBA, I'm literally able to go in and see where we are at on a daily basis. Being able to predict with Amazon exactly how much we will need at a certain time really is a game changer.
Hello, everyone. So my name is Nitin Kulshrestha, and my team and I, we build tools that provide inventory guidance. And I'm here to talk about inventory health. And like many of you, it is very hard for me when I go to my doctor's office to get my weight, my blood pressure reading, or my blood sugar reading done. And no, we're not going to do a medical exam today, but I'm here to help you get a little bit more comfortable with your inventory health, to see what the Inventory Performance Index, or IPI, and how it relates to inventory health, and be a little more prepared to take on that score. So what I'm going to do today is start by talking about a story on measurement, and we'll take basketball. And the Golden State Warriors, whose logo you see up there, they just won the NBA championship, but we're going to go back a few years to the year 2014. And the year 2014, the Golden State Warriors had not won a championship for close to 40 years straight. And they hired Steve Kerr as their coach. So as soon as the basketball season has ended for 2014, Steve Kerr comes on and he starts digging into numbers. And he finds that the Golden State Warriors are number 3 in defense and number 12 in offense. And no team has won a championship if they were above 10 in either of those. So he keeps digging into the numbers, and he finds that Golden State Warriors, they're a good team, good players, but they play what's called isolation basketball. And so he focuses on something and he says, you guys have 247 passes per game. I want you to increase that number to 300. And it's not easy to make the transition, because as you pass, you have turnovers, but they keep working at it. And they start playing team basketball. And that season, the 2015 season, they achieved 316 passes per game, almost 70 above where they were the previous season. They're number 1 in defense, number 2 in offense, and they go on to win the championship. The measure and improve metric for the Golden State Warriors was the number of passes. The measure and improve metric for inventory health is the Inventory Performance Index, or IPI. And my goal today is to help you be an inventory health athlete, get you familiar with the score. You have to decide upon your own marker, and then have the tools to beat it. So here's how we will look at this today. We will discuss the benefits of inventory health, why it's important to you, why it's important to your entire seller community and to the customer. We will get into the details of the index itself and the dashboard where the index is presented. We'll answer a question that many of you have asked me in the 2 days that I've been here, and that is, what's a good score? And then we'll get into some of the tools and guidance that is available for you in Seller Central, which can help you improve that score. So that is what we'll cover. So let's get into the benefits of inventory health, and that is why is this important? So I'll give you about 10 seconds to read the quote. This quote was published in Forbes. It's from a consultant by the name of Shai Atanilov, who was hired by an FBA seller to help improve sales and margins. And what he did was he focused on inventory health to improve sales and margin. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. But I also want to emphasize, I don't know Shai. I don't know the FBA seller. But I thought that that article highlighted a core linkage between inventory health and sales and margins. So what Shai did, as is reflected here, is he removed products that were low margin or were not selling because they accumulate fees and there's holding costs. And then he started reordering the ones that were selling in the right quantities. And the outcome was the profits went from 13 to 24%. So let's break down some of the things that Shai actually found, and these again from the article. He found that many of the products had what he called excess inventory in Amazon. And by excess inventory, for now, let's just say it is products that you don't anticipate will sell in the near horizon. And we'll define it a little bit more concretely as we go along. And so these are the ones that incur fees and holding costs. So he managed excess inventory. On the flip side, Shai found that many of his products were out of stock for too long, and this is probably more familiar to many of you, as you know that you're not only losing out on sales, but competitors and substitutes can get into the market. So Shai managed restock inventory. And then, as he said, once he got the pulse on reordering correctly, the profits began to rise. And we'll dive into these tools a little bit more. But let's also talk about why your inventory health is important for all Amazon sellers. So we do make continuous investments in our fulfillment network, but there are times in the year, especially on busy shopping seasons, where we can see physical constraints. And so in 2015 Q4, we had physical constraints that actually impacted our ability to deliver, and it was so critical that our CFO, in his Q4 investor call for 2015, actually mentioned it. Then again, in 2016 Q4, we had constraints, and so what we did was we had to close FBA to sellers who had not previously sent us inventory to ensure that we could manage what we had and still meet the customer demand. So this is one of the ways how your inventory health is important to all FBA sellers and to the customer and to Amazon. Just a picture from our fulfillment centers. They are built for delivery speed. So as of 2018, and this was referenced in the earlier presentation, there are over 100 million Prime customers, and they expect fast delivery. And that requires that we, too, have overall good inventory health. So what does that mean? That we have the right inventory in the right amounts to meet those speed expectations. So with that inventory health is important. Let's start talking about the index itself, which is the IPI, and the dashboard that it's presented on. So this is the display of the inventory performance index, and it's shown on my right on the screen, because that's the place where that box shows up on the whole dashboard. This score is updated once a week, and it's based on historical performance. So it's devised like a credit score. It takes in multiple inventory inputs, which are your sales, your inventory volumes, fees and costs, And these are collected over a horizon of 13 weeks, and then output as a single number. Now, there's something interesting about this slide that I wanted to highlight. This score moved 71 points in the last 7 days. That's a big jump. And I managed to get familiar with this seller story. They anticipated correctly that they will have a huge spike for Mother's Day. And they were very good with determining the right amount of inventory they needed to bring in for Mother's Day, and then sold it out. So you can see a jump in their inventory volume and sales, which goes up and down like a beautiful hill. And this score is reflected, shortly after Mother's Day, and that's why that jump is shown. So they brought in the right amount of inventory at the right time and managed to sell it all. Now, on this dashboard, there's a Show Details button that you can see. If you click the Show Details button, it'll show you your performance over the last, it'll show you historical performance, and then it will tell you your highest and lowest IPI over that period. And so this seller had 435 on the low side, and then 574 in May, which is when I took this snapshot. On the same dashboard, right after the display of the number, you will also see what we call influencing factors, top influencing factors. These are actions you can take to improve the inventory performance index. So the way I would think about it is going back to health. If your blood pressure reading is your index, let's assume that's what the index is, then your influencing factors are things like your diet, exercise, medications, actions you can take to influence your blood pressure reading. Now, if you notice, in this case, the influencing factor, which we call stranded inventory, has a checkbox. What that is saying is that this seller has taken all the actions they could for the day on stranded inventory. So let's assume if stranded inventory was called exercise. If you took your walk for the day, that would be the check mark you would get. So one key thing I want to also point out is that we often get a question that, hey, my influencing factors are all green, but my score is still low. And the reason that could happen is that you could have taken your medication today, you could have taken your walk today, right? You could have done, and you could have had the right diet today. You could have done everything right today, but the score is built over a historical period of 13 weeks, so it'll take time to reflect that. So I would say keep doing the right things, and as you keep doing the right things, these things get updated daily. I would say maybe give it a quick check daily to see how you're doing, if there are new opportunities to address, and the score will improve. So this is a picture of the dashboard, how it looks. And on this dashboard, you can see you have the score on the far end there. You have the influencing factors in the middle. And then it also tells you a quick summary of your fees. And in the case of this seller, it's saying your storage fees were 2% of your FBA sales revenue. That's total storage fees. Your 2% is about the edge, I would say. You probably want to be under 2%. If you're above 2%, you might be getting into long-term storage fees, which I'm sure some of you have heard about. That's not fees we want you to pay. So I would say, 2% is probably a good gauge on saying how much you're paying in storage fees there. I just scroll the screen up, and underneath that, you see the details of your influencing factors. So the 4 things you saw on the top, you have excess inventory, FBA sell-through, stranded inventory, FBA in-stock rate. And I'll step through all of these in detail. And next to these in the box, you have a place where you can click, and that'll take you to an actual page where you can manage what you can do about them. So there are some actions you can take there, and the number in the parentheses, the SKUs you can act on. On the same dashboard, if you scroll up further, you will see what we call the storage monitor that lets you know how much storage you have for your 4 most common storage types. So you have standard size storage, which is the most common one. That's typically most people use. You have oversize, apparel, and footwear. These 4 are the storage types that are linked to your inventory performance index. This particular seller has unlimited storage, as it points out, and that's because they have a good score. If you did have a limit, that number will tell you the limit. The top row tells you how much you're currently using, and it's all in cubic feet, or what we call cube. So what is a cubic foot, which we also call a cube? That's exactly what it is. It's 12 inches by 12 inches by 12 inches, and the picture shows you, how things look stocked in the FCs, which many of you have visited. A general rule is 1 cubic foot of standard is about 10 items. That's a general rule that we follow, but again, it depends upon what items you have. So how are the storage limits determined using the inventory performance index? So the threshold today at which we set limits is 350. And that's because that's where we see an inflection point today in inventory performance. These limits are set every quarter, in the middle of the quarter for the following quarter. So for example, in the middle of May, there was an announcement about limits for the July 1 quarter. And for July 1, based upon your score on July 1, if that score is still below 350, then the limit is finalized. But we do notify you of the limit in the middle of August. But you have to be below 350 on both dates, the middle of the previous quarter and at the beginning of the quarter. Those are the two times when your score has to be below 350 for you to actually have the limits take effect. Otherwise, you're unlimited storage. It's important, even if you do have unlimited storage, to be mindful, because limits are, again, decided on a quarterly basis. So you could be great this quarter, but make sure you're still managing inventory health, so as the next quarter comes, you still continue to sail through. So just summarizing that here, you're above 350, you have unlimited storage, there is no inventory storage overage fee. If you're below 350, we will advise you of storage limits. You will need to be below the limit to send in additional inventory, and there's a monthly storage overage fee of $10 per cubic foot for holding inventory above the limit. This is not a fee we want you to pay. So again, if you're still above 350, please do still keep monitoring your inventory performance and your inventory health. So many times, actually many sellers reached out, and I've had an opportunity to meet with a lot of you, and I hope to meet with more of you. And one question people ask is, what's a good score? And some of you are really high achievers. You say, can I get to 1,000? Well, the answer is, maybe it really depends upon what you're selling. But what I can tell you is that most sellers are between 400 and 800. An IPI above 450 means you are doing well. You have enough buffer built in, then you can take a seasonal downturn. That's giving you enough of a buffer. Still, you have to keep watchful, but you've given yourself some buffer to work with. If you're above 550, you're doing great. That's the answer, that's how I would answer the score. You can go below the diet for today if you're above that, so that's what I would say. So now that with the score behind us, let's start digging into the tools that are available. So I'm going to go back to the screen that shows you your influencing factors. And those are the 4 factors that we talked about. And now we're going to try to click in through those buttons and see what's behind them. Let's start with the top one, excess inventory. If you click on excess inventory, that brings you to the page for managing excess inventory. This page provides you guidance on actions you can take on units that might be slow moving or not moving. So let's quickly run through the top row there, the top product. And I focus in that orange box. So the top row in the orange box, under total, this particular product has 18 units. It's estimated that all 18 are excess units, and we'll talk about why that could be the case. It tells you estimated storage costs. It also tells you that the lowest price on the site is $8.29. Your original price was $18.66, but you put a sale on it, that's why there's a green box. But perhaps there still needs to be an additional sale, and that's why the Create Sale button shows up. So you can see additional actions behind it, but we recommend Create Sale. And if you click, let's just follow through what happens if you click on the Create Sale button. If you click on it, you get a box that automatically lets you set a different sale price. It's lower, and it'll fill out a recommended start date and end date. You can choose to take it, or you can modify it to what you want it to be. So it's just a recommendation that we made. So how is this happening? So what we have is we have a team of economists, and that's true. We have a bunch of research scientists who are working on creating a model that can go ahead and predict which units might not sell. And this model is customized to each and every one of your individual businesses. So how is that done? If you notice, in the 3 boxes on the 3 gray boxes or the 3 buttons, the left one says Product Settings. If you click that button, it brings up this box. These are your inputs. This is what you need to provide in to make sure that the recommendations are in line with what you might be expecting to see. So I'll walk through these quickly. Cost of purchase, based upon your original selling price, what is the rough cost of purchase for the items that are there? We default it to 50%. That may not be the case. Some of you may say, hey, I only make about 20% on the original selling price, in which case this should be 80% or thereabouts. The cost of capital is a little bit less important, but it is there. Roughly, what's the rate of return you expect to earn? 15%, in the stock market, maybe depends on the stock market times, but somewhere around 8 or 10%. If you don't want to change it, that's okay. Cost of purchase was more important. 15% is what we defaulted to. Recovery rate is, if you were to take that unit, put it out, and then try and do something with it on your own, like sell it or liquidate it, what's the rate you expect? And we default that to 30%. If you really don't have recovery built into the product at all, then I would say make it 0. If you really don't, or make it low, like 4%, 5%. The next 2 are a little bit more involved. They apply to 2 tools, which is restock as well. Supplier lead time, the number of weeks you need to receive your product from the supplier. We do add a little bit of seller lead time on top of it to give us a full lead time picture to how long it'll take for the goods to arrive. And then reorder frequency, which is how often do you reorder your products? Every 8 weeks, every 4 weeks? we default it to 8. And one of the things I would suggest is take a look at it, because sometimes we get feedback, hey, you are recommending a lot of quantity. Maybe you reorder more frequently, and if you reorder more frequently, then you should make that number be slightly smaller. So I'll sum this up. Now that you know the inputs, there is a team of economists who has built a model, and we define excess inventory as inventory where the cost of holding that inventory is higher than the cost of acting on it. So that's just how the mathematics defines it. But again, I look at it and say, hey, is this slow moving or not moving? Do I anticipate it will sell? And if it's not sell, it's better to act on it. So that's the managing excess inventory page. Let's continue going through the influencing factors. Sell-through. The sell-through is a ratio of your sales to inventory. The way I like to think about it is, how fast is your inventory selling through? And if you click on sell-through, you come to this page, which is called the FBA inventory age page. Looks a lot like the excess inventory page. So very similar, except you can see all your SKUs here. So excess inventory will only highlight your SKUs that we believe, based upon the model we discussed, are excess. Here, you can get to all of them. And so if I look in the middle, we tell you you have 165 units that are available. 3 of them are 0 to 90 days, recent. 162 are 91 to 180. We also tell you what we estimate is the long-term storage fee if none of the 165 had sold by the time the next LTSF date will come around. So again, it's just a number there. You would likely sell some, but we just try to estimate, saying, hey, what that's based on. And then similar to the excess inventory page, you also see recommendations, like in here, it'll say create sale. So again, you can hit on create sale if you believe the sell-through is low, which might be the case for the top row there. And if you hit create sale, it'll bring you to the same place, and then you can set your own values for the sale you want to create. So we keep walking through. Excuse me. Let's talk about stranded inventory. Now, stranded is a term that is confusing, so I'll define it. Inventory that does not have an active offer. That means it's not available through an actual listing on the page, is what we call stranded. And because it has no offer, it cannot sell. So, it's like the inventory is stranded in a fulfillment center. It's like somebody might be stranded on a desert island, is the way I think about stranded. There's some perfectly legitimate scenarios where this happens. So we know that there are multiple ways this could happen. For instance, there could be an automated pricing rule that conflicts with the price. So the price set might be going too low, and you had a min or max threshold set. And if that happens, then we would not act on it, and the listing gets pulled down until you correct it. It would surface in the stranded inventory page. The key is, whatever the reason, if you see listing show up there, we would say manage it quickly. Let's take a quick look at this page. So if you click the button, it takes you to a page called Fix Stranded Inventory. That's what the page looks like. And it lists all the SKUs, all the products where we believe there isn't an active offer. Now, on this particular page, it shows several products that it says are incomplete, and it shows you the available quantity in the next orange box, which I've highlighted. Effectively, it could be, hey, maybe the listing is missing a price. So maybe you were just creating listings and they were not created. And the action then is to create the listing or complete the listing. So if you click on that, it'll take you through, and you can finish off creating the listing, and it'll be live. And then your inventory can actually sell. So again, the key here is to manage this quickly if you see stranded inventory show up. One of the ones we get a lot of questions on is the FBA in-stock rate or the restock tool making a It is one of the most important inventory decisions that you make. I describe it as what I should restock, when I should restock, and how much I should restock. Those are the three questions you're asking. What, when, and how much. I want to point out, before we dive into the page, there is a question that comes up often. Hey, this is listed as an influencing factor. I have seasonal items or non-replenishable items that I'm not going to replenish. Are you penalizing me on the inventory performance index because this rate is low? No. 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 We do not penalize you in the inventory performance index for a low in-stock rate. However, what could happen is that maybe you're out of stock on an item that was really selling fast, but there was an item, as in Shai's story, that was not selling. That item that was not selling is likely contributing to a lower IPI, but you're just missing out on sales, and we don't want you to miss out on sales. So again, in-stock rate is not an input into your inventory performance index. It is, however, important to manage it because it can lead you towards what to restock, when to restock, and by how much, and drive up your sales. So let's click into the restock page. So again, it has a listing of your products. And the two important columns here are recommended order quantity and the recommended order date. So the products are what? The recommended order date is when. The recommended order quantity is how much. We do use inputs such as forecasting, again, a very sophisticated model that is doing it. It's the same team of economists and data scientists who build it. If you find that we are recommending too much, or the recommended order date does not seem right based upon how your business operates, then adjust those inputs under product settings. As you can see, this page also has the button for product settings right on top. And you can also do it by SKU. So we provide an overall setting, and you can go under the action drop-downs. You can actually change product settings on a SKU basis. Cool. So those are the 4 influencing factors. I'm going to touch upon a couple more tools that are helpful. So for instance, we provide a capability to automate removals linked to long-term storage fee. So if you look there, this is the inventory H page. It gives you a click action text, automated long-term storage removals. If you click that, it brings you to this particular page where under disposal and return price guidelines, you can actually set prices. So if it's below a certain price at this point, you say, hey, just dispose of it. If it's above a certain price, you say, no, remove it because I can take better care of it. So that's the rule. I want to highlight that these settings are at an account. This particular page is at an account level today. It's not at a SKU or an ASIN level. So if you're really sure, then I would use it and it could help you, but also be aware that it acts on your entire account. Another helpful tool is to automate pricing, and there is a sophisticated pricing engine there. So in the pricing menu in Seller Central, if you click on automated pricing, that'll take you to a wizard where you can go ahead and set parameters and set minimum and maximum prices and choose the SKUs and set in what's called an automated pricing rule. And so more information on that is available on that page as well. So I know we kind of touched upon it, but I want to re-emphasize it. Just like your health, inventory health is a continuous exercise. Establish a regular cadence to maintain year-round health. We have a lot of high-demand days, and I tie back to the seller who correctly anticipated Mother's Day. A lot of high-demand days, and sometimes you may not anticipate it right. If you're not anticipating it, you can miss out. So be aware of them. Key days, Mother's Day, Father's Day, Prime Day, Black Friday, Cyber Monday. For the UK, there's an International Boxing Day, Singles Day, and of course, pretty much most of peak. So make sure you're in stock for those days. Leverage our tools to make sure you are in stock in the right amounts. And even though you may not do a special deal, demand on those days is up. Thank you.
Thank you.